Hello, so here we are again once more, and now we're going to start with Act 1, Scene 2. So now there is a shift from Venice to Belmont. The scene opens in a room in Portia's mansion. It's a huge mansion where she lives, something that she's inherited from her father. She's a rich heiress. And so the scene opens there, and we have two characters here. Portia. We've heard of Portia in Act 1, Scene 1. She is the lady Bassanio loves. He's a youngster, she's a beautiful lady, and he intends to come all the way from Venice to Belmont to win her. So here we have Portia and her maid, Nerissa. They are also almost of the same age, and we can see a very strong bond between Portia and Nerissa. And just as in scene 1, we saw Antonio sad, gloomy. Similarly, scene 2 opens with Portia actually complaining of some kind of boredom. She says, "By my troth, Nerissa, my little body is aweary of this great world." She seems to be tired. She seems to be bored. She seems to be unhappy. And despite the fact that Nerissa is her maid, we can see that beyond that class and position barrier, they are actually good friends. Portia trusts Nerissa for everything, and just as two young girls would talk about men and their little secrets and make fun of people and suitors, we see the two of them engaging in a similar manner. And I do remember, one such time when I was growing up, and I was in class 11 or 12 probably, and I would, in a similar manner, I had a very, very close friend of mine, and we would often sit and, talk about our little secrets. So similarly, this is a scene that is easy to understand. We can see Portia, she's rich, she's beautiful, but she's unhappy. Why? Because you see, her life is governed and controlled by the will of her dead father. And she says that the will that her father has made, it stops her from choosing a husband, right? So her father had devised a test for her suitors because he was a wise man. And Nerissa here in a very strong manner, she supports Portia's father and says that Portia should never doubt his intention. He was a wise man, and he definitely used his wisdom to devise this casket system. So there are three caskets: the gold, silver, and the lead casket. And in one of them is Portia's portrait. So when the suitors come, they have to undertake certain promises and vows, and thereafter they are brought into this chamber where the caskets are kept, and they have to choose. And if they're fortunate to choose the one that contains Portia's portrait, then that specific suitor will promptly marry Portia, whether she likes him or not. So as a young girl, we can understand, we can empathize with her that definitely it's not an easy thing to follow a dead father's will, though there is good intent and goodwill. And so we can see, because of this restriction that she feels prohibited to use her own will because of her father's will. And then, of course, we see the two ladies talk about the suitors, because there are a number of suitors who keep coming to Belmont to woo Portia. She's most desirable, she's rich, she's beautiful, she's young. So there are hundreds of suitors who come to Belmont with the hope of marrying Portia. So there is a set of wooers who are in the waiting. And Nerissa wants to find out if she has a soft corner for any one of them. So there are about 6 of them, and I'll just read out the names to you. And she calls out the name, Nerissa calls out the names, and she wants to know Portia's, reaction and responses to them. So the first one is the Neapolitan prince. Second, there is the County Palatine. Third, French Lord Monsieur Le Bon. Then we have Falconbridge, the young Baron of England, the Scottish Lord, his neighbor. And then, of course, the Duke of Saxony's nephew. And we see the two ladies making fun of these suitors, and Portia finds some flaw or the other in each one of them, thus making it very clear that none of them has been able to win her heart. She is not in love with anyone. She just doesn't like any one of them. She in fact detests and she wants to get rid of them as soon as possible. And she's tired of entertaining suitors, and to take them through this entire process of the tests of the caskets system. And she's really, really wary of this whole process. And at this juncture, Nerissa informs her that in fact this entire bunch of suitors have decided to leave Belmont because there were conditions which were very strong, and it wasn't anybody's cup of tea or everybody's cup of tea to follow those two conditions in order to pursue Portia in marriage. So Portia is very thrilled that she's been able to get off these suitors, and the scene is almost coming to an end when there is the servant who brings in the news of the arrival of the seventh suitor, that is the Prince of Morocco. Now, we all know that there are three caskets, the gold, the silver and the lead. And out of the several suitors who come to woo Portia's hand in marriage, only a few of them are able to stay back and adhere to the conditions left by her father. So her father was indeed a very, very wise man who knew that his daughter would be open to, being fooled or exploited by greedy young men who would definitely, cheat her or try to, rob her of her money. So he devised this casket system. I mean, dads are always protective. So he devised this casket system, and he put such stringent, such strict conditions that until the suitors fulfilled the first condition, the second condition, they would not be brought into the room where the caskets were kept. And there were such strong conditions that most of the suitors would leave without adhering to any one of them. And that was the best way to just keep them at bay and sieve them. And only those who could take the risk would come to the third level of going into the chamber of the caskets. So this is where scene 2 ends. We have a peep into Portia's life, her temperament, how she's obedient, she's loyal to her father's will. Though the father is not around, yet she is ready and willing, though there is a kind of unhappiness, but she will definitely marry the man who will choose the right casket. So that is the strength of her character. So this brings us to the end of scene 2. Please wait for my next video. I will take you over to Act 1, Scene 3. And thank you so much. Good night.